Hi, and welcome to And Now for Something Completely Machinima, the podcast about machinima, virtual production, and other related technologies. We're going to jump right in here. First of all, my name is Phil, and with me are my co-hosts, Tracy, Ricky, and Damien.
Hey,
welcome to all of you. How are you?
Good.
I feel like it was just a few minutes ago we spoke. So it's always good to get back together. So the film this week is my pick. This is a film called Mann Co, employee training video, made by a guy who on YouTube goes by the screen name Tipsy Duck. And if I'm not mistaken, it's made in the Source engine in it has a Team Fortress 2 type look to it,
right?
I guess. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I was so confident from the look of the models and the movements that it was that I didn't even dig into it further. So if you know differently, let me know. But this is it's one of my favorite formats, and that is a satirical PSA, which I have great affinity for. If you know my background, you know why. I love this type of humor. This is a sarcastic, it's a would-be public service announcement type of video, but loaded with absurd humor. I'm not sure what I don't think that there's unlike some satire where you can tell that there's a point. I don't think that there's necessarily a statement being made here. It's just really having fun with that type of format and inappropriate humor. There is toilet humor, which is why it made my pick. Every film I've picked for this show has some kind of toilet humor in it, of course. That's my thing. So anyway, I just absolutely loved this film, and there's one particular moment in the film that sealed the deal for me in terms of this is my pick, and that is the glare.
Oh yeah.
The glare is just there's a point where this narrator in the film comes to a room where there's a child in the bed, kind of a Make-A-Wish Foundation kind of nod, and the child has just been asked, what do you want? And the child says, I want to go home. And then all of a sudden he looks over to the doorway, and there's the narrator with just this menacing glare, and the music and everything and it lingers on it for so long. And I've seen that before. It's not a new thing, it's been done, but this was done so well. And I don't know if I've ever seen something quite like that done in machinima, because it's so reliant on, there's a certain thing you have to be able to do with the face and eyes to pull that off, that kind of, it's saying something without saying anything, right? So, and this isn't the world's, this isn't the most advanced facial engine out there, not anymore. It at one time was pretty up there, but this is, by today's standards, leaning more towards the primitive, and yet they really pulled that and many other impressive things off in this, with the way that animations were used. The voice actor that is the narrator is just terrific, just perfect for this role. So I'm very interested to hear what you guys thought of it.
Well, actually, I really like this. We don't pay you to think, we pay you to work. Pretty much sums up the approach presented here. And as one of the reviewers commented, it's really one great long list of human rights violations.
That's right.
And of course, jokes about war and P-takes and all the lot. It's actually really close to the knuckle too, with a lot of source filmmaker in-jokes centering on these characters. So if you're not too familiar with Team Fortress and source filmmaking, some of it I suspect might pass you by a little bit. I tell you what I really like though, the facial animation I think is stood up amazingly well. It's really quite interesting, and I'm guessing that's there's no mocap in this at all, is there? But there's really good facial movement, I think, lip movement maybe. But overall, I really liked the editing. I thought it was well done. The voiceover, as you said, Phil, was fantastic. That's
yeah.
From what I could see, it was a guy called Keith Ferrell, otherwise known as MrTush on YouTube. I think he was brilliant. That kind of sort of smarmy, evil training video voice, which could tell you absolutely anything at all, which, you know, this guy did. Some of the jokes, I'm not sure they stand up quite as well today. I mean, this is not that old, is it? This is only
2017.
2017. It's not sort of like 10 years old. Some of it, I suppose, a little bit reminiscent of what one might expect in the world of Musk at Twitter headquarters, perhaps, going on. Maybe a certain president's son's world, maybe. Maybe you can imagine some of that being very reminiscent of how things are panning out a little. Some of it made me a bit twitchy, I have to say. But I guess I shouldn't really be all that surprised. I mean, 2 million views since it was uploaded is pretty astonishing for this. The other thing I will say is it also tagged the Saxxys, but as far as I could see, it wasn't one of the finalists. So I'm guessing it was one of the entries. I don't know if you knew any more about that. I mean, I found a playlist for all the entries for that year. But I couldn't really find it on the playlist either. So I'm guessing there are thousands that are on the entries for it. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Thank you, Phil.
Tracy, you were talking about reminiscent of Musk, Twitter, and other things. Recently, I've been involved with this campaign to save buses. This guy reminded me so much of someone I've had to deal with.
For the town council.
I don't want to go too far because I don't want any names to come up or anything like that. But and even the way he looks. So that's the first.
I won't say his name, but it begins with F and it ends with Francois. Other than
that, and I could imagine the guy I've had interacting with talking like this behind the scenes in a way that made me a little bit uncomfortable.
Right.
But yeah, the video itself, though, is really well done. I think, obviously, this Team Fortress 2 it's quite an old game now, but because it's got the stylized graphics, I think that really helps it stand out too. Because it never tried to be realistic. Like games at that time, that some were trying to be as realistic as possible. This went for the cartoony style. And as we've seen from some of the other Team Fortress videos we've looked at recently, they all still hold up because they're going for that cartoony style, and that can be a huge benefit for making a video that holds up many years later. And obviously this did, and the humor was great. I was laughing all the way through it. I could definitely see why you chose it, Phil.
Yeah, it's my kind of humor for sure.
Yeah, I just really enjoyed it. It's a really good pick. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it.
Okay,
but I really enjoyed it.
I've always enjoyed your sense of humor, not only as a person, Phil, but as a filmmaker as well. You always have this wonderful sense of subtle irony to things and satire. Satire is not an easy thing to do, and you have a real skill in creating those scenes. Also, one of my favorite little genres of film types is the ephemeral film. That's the films that are not really part of a marketplace or anything like that. Training videos would fall into that, PSAs, industrial films. There's a magnificent collection of them on archive.org.
Yeah, the Internet Archive.
The Prelinger Archive. Yep. And if you go through those, you'll come up with some films that are unintentionally hilarious.
Terrific.
Absolutely hilarious.
Yes, I think I've watched them all.
Yeah, I know. And, stuff about sleep or dating or cranky children or safety in the factory. And this immediately endeared me to it because it was of that genre.
It sure was.
And I thought, what a great idea. And I think oftentimes satire and humor starts with a great idea or a great situation. And then it depends upon your craft in terms of how you do the writing and how you set up the editing to support all that. And this guy did that. Tipsy Duck really did a fine job. It does push the edge of appropriateness sometimes.
I think so too.
There's
lines I wouldn't have crossed.
There's a daughter bit in there of the owner of the company that kind of made me cringe, you know. But they didn't hold on it. They just kept plowing right through. So it was an idea, they did it, and they moved on. But that was a little. But humor has always been that way, you know. I mean, there's even stories of ancient Roman actors who did such appropriate things that the governor who would be in the theater had them stoned or beaten on stage. You know, so you can imagine yourself performing, you do something that's tasteless, and the governor says, go in and give him a few kicks. And they kick him, you know. I'm so sorry. I kind of wish there was a button on YouTube that I could push to kick the guy just once for the thing. But hey, you know, it's funny. It was funny in a painful kind of way. But I love the look of the film. The animations are excellent. Believe me, working in source filmmaker, the learning curve is vertical, is Everest type. If you can surpass, I mean, if you can conquer that learning curve, you can really produce some great results with source filmmaker. And they obviously have done that, and they are really skilled. Perhaps the editing here and there was maybe a little bit sloppy. You found the glare, the long take on the glare, very funny. I found it just a little bit too much. They should have cut a little bit sooner. And there's a couple other scenes where they include walking as part of the edit. And it seemed like a padding or something, or they just didn't cut it too soon. We watched the film, Lisa, my partner, and I recently with Christopher Lee. Was one of his Euro films, and I would say good 15 minutes of it were people walking from one place to the next. Obviously, you would cut that out, but they wanted to keep it in order to pad the length to become a feature film. Now, I'm not saying that's what they did here. No, they didn't. But maybe some judicious cutting might have helped the pace just a little bit. But the film, and also I found myself. Well, I've mentioned that it was uncomfortable sometimes, and maybe the pace was off here and there, but overall, I found myself really laughing through it, finding the animation and being caught up. And it's not easy to do a glare with a completely inanimate object, a 3D representation. To make sure that face is alive, that's an extraordinary accomplishment. And I really giving a standing ovation for Tipsy Duck for that one. But really interesting choice, Phil. I'm really glad you picked it, and I enjoyed it. And quite a contrast from the other films.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and if you like Tipsy Duck's work, this is not his only film by far. His not his only machinima film, and it's not even the only film with this character. In fact, there's one where it's almost like a biography behind the scenes interview of who is this guy. At least it's using the exact same model. I don't remember if it refers to him by a name that would tie in with this video, but it's the same voice, and the same actor. So there's several of them in there, and some of the videos go even further past the cringe line. So this was me paring it back a bit, and this one too. There's points where it's like, and I'm not talking in like any kind of snowflakey woke sense of things. I'm talking about just general standards most people can agree on.
Yeah.
But the way that I looked at it, the way that I feel about those things generally is there's probably nothing more distasteful than safe comedy.
Yep.
You know?
Comedy has always been transgressive.
I want to watch somebody who's taking some chances, and that means that sometimes they're missing. sometimes the joke falls flat, or sometimes it's just like, dude, that makes me so uncomfortable. I'll laugh, but I'll feel bad about it. Or it's so much that I'm not going to laugh at all. But when they hit, it's like, wow, the jokes land. That is good comedy. Now, people who hone that skill professionally have learned to shave off the bits that either don't work or that offend too much, and you end up with this extraordinary routine. But that is a world-class skill that very few, even in the comedy industry, have. Very few. So, and I feel like that the guy behind this film, the people behind this film, are aiming at that target.
Yes.
And I like that.
I agree.
I appreciate that okay, you gambled a bit there, and I don't think it necessarily worked, but I can admire the guts,
the attempt. Yep.
Go ahead and gamble. And it's weird because it's hard to define. We've talked about this before, Ricky, that it's really hard to define what's the difference between satire that's aiming and goes too far and just plain old tastelessness. And it's really hard to pin down what that is, but you know it when you see it. Is that lame?
Yeah.
To fall back on that?
No, not at all. But I think the process of creating it, you hit the key, is that you write it without censoring yourself. But then as you're reviewing it and paring it down, you react to it yourself. And you go, oh, that might be a little bit too much. But then again, satire really helps us to be able to say things that we really want to say, but if we said them, they'd be mean.
Yeah. It's everybody's access to the court jester role. Right?
Yep.
Which, if you don't know what that is, historically, the court jester wasn't just some dude in a silly hat with bells. It was the one man in the king's entourage that could say anything to the king without question. And so they would really push it. And the king valued the man in that role because a good king would, anyway.
He's the only one that tells the truth.
Realize, nobody else around me, everyone else is too intimidated to tell me the truth. So, and I feel like satire in some way is it's that jester type of thing. And society now is, there's very few societies now run by kings. So it's society itself that needs that jester. Yeah. And I think satire is the way that gets done. So, that's what pulls me to it.
Really nice.
I like being a part of that when I get a chance to. So,
great perspective. Great perspective.
I'll mention here too, we don't do this very often, talk about stuff that's part of mainstream entertainment stuff. But this video, the kind of really harsh satire on corporate environments, if that's your kind of humor, there's a show that is debuting this month or last month on Amazon Prime called The Consultant, starring Christoph Waltz. And it's magnificent. It's weird. It's really strange, very odd, but it plays very much into, it strums the same chords as this humor-wise. And Christoph Waltz, if you'll know him when you see him, if you don't know who that is, but to me, he's like one of the actors that just I go out of my way to see anything that he does. He's quite magnificent. So
that series is based on a novel by an author named Bentley Little. Bentley Little is a horror author who has been writing for about 20 years.
Wow.
And my partner Lisa is just absolutely obsessed with him because what he does is he takes a certain kind of thing or a location or a place, like the apartment or the condominium, and he shows you how weird things are there, how crazy and nuts they are. And they're all like, he has another one called the Association, or no, what is like in a resident townhouse, they have the group of people that sort of govern it.
Yeah, the association is usually what
the association.
Yeah,
he did an association where he takes this absolutely mad group of people that do all of these things. So I was really happy that Bentley Little got that gig, not only for him because it'd give him a nice chunk of change to keep him writing. But if you like that stuff, Phil, you've got to read Bentley Little novels.
I did add that to. I wasn't aware of his other works yet, but I did add that book to my list for next time I'm at the library.
He's been writing for 20 years.
That's
his
fantastic.
Stuff is magnificent.
That's great. I didn't realize that the genre that he was put in was horror, but having watched the show, I binged it this week. I can see why.
Yeah.
It's more than a little disturbing, this show, but just if that's your thing, it's an amazing mix of horror vibes and biting comedy. And of course, again, Christoph Waltz, just a monster actor. So Ricky, the way you're leaning right now, a little devil's mask is like coming through the gloom.
I'm looking at a shelf full.
That's our thumbnail, Tracy, for this video. That's our thumbnail.
I'm looking at a shelf full of Bentley
coming out of Ricky's head like a little boil. That's the thumbnail.
I'm looking at a shelf full of Bentley Little books that are right near me. Dispatch is one of them. The Store. That's absolutely hysterical. The Town. The Agency. Just really, he loves to take institutional things and then just turn them inside out with just madness, Kafka-like madness.
I can't wait to dig into that book. So anyway, that's one to keep an eye out for as something to watch and also something to read.
Yep.
So that will do it for this episode. Thank you, Tracy, Ricky, and Damien.
Yeah.
Thank you
for your feedback, and we look forward to the next episode.
Great choice.
All right. See ya.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.